Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Coin. It is the August Roundup podcast. Hello, Rounduppers.
Hello.
Hey, y'all.
That's your new nickname. But actually, you're going to have newer nicknames today because we're going to be talking a little bit about the Barbie movie. But before we get into that, we had some fun picking this month's articles that we wanted to deep dive. And one of them is going to be on mortgage rates because they're high, sky high right now, and how that's affecting Americans. And the other one is going to be on Barbie and Taylor Swift and Beyonce unleashing the spending power of women, which we love to see it, but we have some thoughts there. So, y'all ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
All right. Okay. Mortgage rates. Basically, 2 in 3 Americans planning to buy homes are now waiting until mortgage rates drop. So I feel like we should start with Steph. You live, breathe, eat real estate. And what are you seeing mortgage rates at right now? And how is this affecting your company, Open House, which doesn't just sell homes in Austin, it also educates people, specifically focus on women, how to creatively get into the real estate game?
Yes. So our clients are seeing in the mid sevens right now, mid 7%, which is the highest it's been in quite some time. It is not relatively like the highest we've ever seen in history by any means. Like we've seen 12, we've seen 20. Like this isn't historically the highest, but in our generation, it is the highest, especially since 2 years ago, we were seeing 2.5, 2.75. And it is quite a large impact on the monthly payment. And that directly translates into how many people are excited and ready to buy. And so we have a lot of people that are interested in buying. We have hit our lead goal for the past 6 months in a row, which is amazing. However, the conversion rates have severely dropped off because people and they're talking to a lender and they're saying, okay, let's see, I can afford X. And then what's on the market isn't exciting to them. And what is exciting to them would cost them their entire paycheck. So we're just seeing a lot of like decline in interest and decline in, I mean, honestly, people are just being approved for a lot less. And that's not exciting. You're not upgrading from where you are. And then the other thing is, I'll stop in a second, but people are if you're going to sell your house, you're giving up the interest rate you have now. A lot of people have 3%, 2.5%, even 4% interest rates, and they don't want to sell that house to then trade in for a 7.5% interest rate because that's increasing their payment by X, especially if they're increasing their budget if they want to upgrade. So that hopefully that kind of like tells you where we are in Austin at least.
No, I think that's a really good introduction to what you're seeing on the ground doing this day in, day out with buyer sentiments. It sounds like people still want to buy, but they're just, as this article says, they're sitting on the sidelines until it feels more comfortable. Can you give an example maybe of a borrower who qualifies for a $600,000 loan at 3% versus a $600,000 loan at 6%? I mean, is it really like how much does it jump up that monthly mortgage?
I'll tell you exactly. Okay, so we have a $600,000 home with a 10% down payment, a 30-year term. Your payment is about $3,200 a month. That's with taxes.
That's at what percent?
At 3%, excuse me.
Okay.
The 3% interest rate, $600,000 home, $3,300. That's taxes, insurance, and your mortgage principal and interest. If you jump to, let's say, 7%, which is bottom of what we're seeing right now, jump to 7%, the interest or the payment overall is $4,600. So you just went from $3,200 to $4,600. That's a huge difference in payment, and that means you're affording a lot less. If there are a lot of people who are approved for a $3,500 mortgage, getting $3,200 mortgages for $600,000 loan, thinking this is amazing. This is exciting for me. I love this. I'm looking at these $600,000 houses and I can afford them and I can upgrade. And now we're just seeing a lot less of that.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you say those numbers, the way it works in my brain at least is one's a $3,000 mortgage, one's a $5,000 mortgage. Do I want to
Right.
pay $2,000 more per month, 24 grand a year for countless years forward? I mean, yes, we definitely talk a lot about refinancing, but you can't guarantee when you'll be able to refinance. So that could be way off in the distant future. It shouldn't be a thing you count on. You should still be able to afford your monthly net now. So
Right.
I can definitely see why buy. I mean, I'm doing the same. I have a 3.36 rate in this house, and it was a $600,000 house when I bought it. And now Redfin and Zillow tells me it's more in the 550 range. So I guess the other side of that is we are seeing price declines in the housing market, but not enough for the buyers to jump back in.
Right. There's opportunity in every market. I mean, right now we're seeing discounts, we're seeing sellers paying for repairs, we're seeing sellers paying for rate buy downs, which is amazing. That's why there's still buyers in the market, because they're getting deals. They're seeing houses that are cheaper than they've been in 4 or 5 years. And that is great. However, we we still need them to drop. If we're going to keep interest rates at 7.5, prices are going to have to keep on going down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you maybe explain just the rate buy down real quick for anyone who might be in the home purchasing process but aren't familiar with that because they haven't gotten to the lender portion?
Yes. Do y'all know, like, Pam, did you buy your rate down?
I did not, but
Okay.
I was a pandemic by 2.5%
So you didn't
interest
need to.
rate.
Yes. So you're paying an interest rate. That's the fee that you're paying to the bank in order to borrow this money. If you want to opt to pay upfront a little bit less than what you would pay over the life of the loan in interest, you can buy your rate down. So let's say you get quoted 7.5% interest rate, 7.5% interest rate. You can pay upfront a certain amount, and it's different every single day, to get that rate decreased by a certain amount. So you can say, okay, I want to pay $5,000 and get my rate decreased from 7.5 to 6.5. And then you have to do the math and make sure that you're going to save that $5,000 while you own the house. If you're planning to own this house for 3 years and then sell it, it doesn't make sense to buy a rate down, because you're going to pay more upfront than you're going to pay over the life of the loan. Right now, we're seeing something called a 2-1 buy down, which is a temporary buy down. So you're buying the rate down 2% in the first year and 1% in the second year, with the hopes that in those 2 years you'll be able to refinance the whole loan and get the permanent interest rate down all the way, because that third year it goes all the way back up to that 7.5%. So there's ways so that you're not paying 7.5, but you're paying for them, or the seller's paying for them, and it's still it might not make sense for you. Like, not every single person is going to do this. It's not like a black and white situation.
How frequently are you seeing buyers do this for themselves versus sellers offering this as a concession?
So common, we're seeing sellers offering this, and usually that's in the negotiation period. It's like, okay, here's my offer. However, I need you to spend $10,000 in seller credit to buy my rate down to make this possible for me.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I saw like a meme on Instagram that's like me sitting in my, 2.5% interest rate house, realizing I'm going to live here forever, because it is like all these increases. Like, as someone who did buy when it was 2.5% interest, to see how much of an increase, I mean, essentially the math that you did, Steph, being at $2,000 plus, right, on a 600K house, you really do have to be really comfortable with that monthly payment as it stands now, because I think we were all really hopeful that rates would start to slow down a little bit. And it's been tough to kind of see that. So yeah, definitely like interesting things that people are having to weigh in terms of like, am I comfortable with this monthly payment now? And that's like conversations that we've been having in the Factora Slack channel as well, is like people having these types of debates, like, hey, should I buy now? And then with hopes to refinance. And, it's really about being comfortable with that payment.
That, or renting instead of buying. I mean, I think there's people in different positions, right? There are people who are in their current house that were planning to upgrade, who I just saw someone in the Factora Slack channel this morning say that one of their money wins is that they decided to hold off on a home purchase and put some money into their house now. So a house that they weren't planning on staying in, they're going to renovate some pieces. And I think that's a great use of capital if you're going to stay here anyways and you already had the money saved. She also said she was going to put
Absolutely.
some back in her investment accounts, which I thought was interesting too, because obviously they had a lot sat out in cash, but they just don't want to spend that kind of money on a house that the monthly fixed cost is so high. And I think that that actually is really the benefit of understanding these subjects that we talk about here and applying them back to your values. Like what makes sense for us and our household or my personal plan if you're not in a
Yeah.
household situation.
Yeah.
And thinking about the demand for houses right now, since it is so low, there's really cool deals to be had. However, once they start dropping, and I think this was maybe someone's question too, is when are people going to enter the market again? When is that number from this article, 2 out of 3 are waiting? When are those 2 out of 3 are going to jump back in? And I think as soon as we see the sixes again, and they continue dropping, fives is going to be a frenzy, just like it was during the pandemic. So do you want to go against 10 other buyers who want the same house as you? You have to go over asking. You have to sacrifice your inspection period, all of that stuff. It's like, it's pros and cons of each market. I've had I've had buyers, get incredible solid houses, roofs replaced, foundation fixed, like all of this stuff. They're getting a really solid product. Whereas during the pandemic, there was a lot of sacrifices, a lot of like, I'll take it. I just want it. I want it so bad. And, so you never know.
It definitely goes back to the law of supply and demand. Like we're seeing that very clearly here, and it's all connected. It's all a domino effect, right? People don't want to give up their low rate, so they're staying in their house, keeping the supply low. People who want to get into the market that don't have a house yet don't have options because people don't want to move and don't want to give up their rate. So it is a little bit of like a cat and mouse game right now. But yeah, I mean, that's my question, Steph. But when, what is the threshold with rates getting lower where people will say, okay, now I'm comfortable entering the market?
Right.
And
So when I started buying houses in 2013, my rates were anywhere 4.75. I had a 5% more, that was totally normal. No one was talking about interest rates. And it was just like, this is a normal climate. And obviously we know now that there's not really a normal. It's just, it ebbs and flows based on the Fed rate. Mortgage companies need to get paid, so they up it from whatever the Fed rate is. But I think that once we start moving into the low sixes, it's going to be game on. People are going to see that isn't actually that much of a difference, and they're just going to kind of have to adjust, because I don't think we're going to see the threes again for a very long time. And I also think that prices are going to need to stabilize, and they're going to need to adjust to people's salaries, because right now the prices are unsustainable, and sellers are like, well, I knew I could get $1 million during the pandemic, and I'm not going to list for 750 now. And so they're just holding onto their properties. But something's going to come to a head where people are going to need to sell their properties, and they're going to just need to accept that they have to take a little bit less.
I think that though you kind of hit the key where people are just going to have to adjust, right? I get right now that a couple years ago, it takes a while to save for a house, right? Like, 5 years, 10 years. So people started saving years ago with the expectation that they would be able to get a certain kind of house at a certain price point. That has completely shifted on them in the last 2 years. So they're still pegging their expectation to what they originally thought. But as we, get into the environment where, 7% might actually be the pegged interest rate for people who start saving, as soon as it goes into the 6s or the 5s again, they're going to say, oh, that's a great rate, because they don't really remember the 3% environment, or they just, haven't pegged to that number. Because, yeah, when I bought my first house, I was close to 5%. No one was complaining about 5% rates at that time. Our parents, our grandparents, they bought houses with mortgages at 12%, 18%. And they did it because that was their normal. So we're in this transition environment where buyers remember that low rate period, but we need to kind of reset expectations.
And I think that's going to be hard because we have been in a low interest rate environment for a while. And that's what a lot of people in our age range, what are we on this podcast? We're like 30 to 40.
Yeah.
We don't have a big range, but anyways, we're quite used to this. And most of us took advantage of refinancing during peak low interest. So even Whitney, you bought in at 5%. I bought my first house at 4.5. I did refinance down to the 3. So I'm holding these properties at such a low long-term interest rate that it doesn't make sense for me to sell them. Although I will say I am selling a property right now with open house. So the reason I'm doing that is not because I don't or couldn't hold on to it, but simply because I want to consolidate. And my husband is our property manager, and it's hard to property manage multiple homes. And we've had tenant situations, and, we talk a lot about simplifying your financial system in Factora. And I think it's really interesting because so many women come in and they're like, I want to open up all these accounts and try all these things. And then they're like, whoa, I have too much to look at. I need to not be on Vanguard and Betterment and Fidelity and all of this. And so consolidation with your financial accounts, it's the same thing, consolidation with your investment assets, right? So we're experiencing that right now. And then on a future roundup, hopefully we'll have an offer and I can break down that deal for you. But okay, anyone else have anything more to say on this current mortgage rate environments? What about your personal friends? Do you have people who were going to buy and they're pausing? Like, are you experiencing that 2 out of 3 in your personal network that are sitting on the sidelines?
Yeah, I have a friend who was saving for a house, decided, ran the current numbers, decided it wasn't the best investment for them right now, and then essentially put all that money into the market. So, kept those funds for investing, but rather than get into the real estate asset class, got into the paper asset class, which I actually think, is very smart. Like, it is okay to pivot. It is okay to rent when it doesn't make sense for you to buy. I think over the past generations, especially the baby boomers, they've made a fortune in the housing industry, and they kind of, they love to tell those stories to their children. And so a lot of people have it in their mind that, like, okay, I got to buy a house. That's how I'm going to make, good money as an investment. But that's not true across the board. So I just want to encourage people to always run the numbers and go what you're comfortable with, because renting may actually be the better investment, quote unquote, if you will, because you can put that money maybe, in the stock market or towards a business or some other investment that is actually going to get you a better return than real estate. You're locked into this asset class.
Yeah. I actually have friends who are the 1 in 3, if you will, who are not thinking about waiting to buy. And it's been interesting. It kind of goes back to what we were saying about if you're comfortable with the monthly payment as it is, for various reasons, they want to, upgrade and kind of change to a different style home. They own their home right now at a very low rate. And so they can actually turn that home into a rental and look to purchase another home, even at this, 7% 7.5% rates that we're seeing because they're comfortable with the monthly payment as it
Yeah.
is. So I do think it is about making sure you're comfortable with it now. And like, that's kind of what I'm seeing with my friends.
Yeah, it makes sense to run the numbers, obviously. Like, don't rule it out just because the interest rates are high. And I see a lot of people right now who we're helping buy are looking for a house hacking situation, or like the mortgage is high, but if it's getting covered by a rental, then
Yeah.
amazing. So, or if the majority of it is getting covered, and that's why Allegra, the house that you're selling right now, that we're selling for you, is actually a great buy because there's an extra unit. You fully converted the garage with a kitchen and a bathroom, and it's also a large house other than that, and so you can break it up if you're a creative investor and if that's the stage of life that you want to be in right now. You can actually live for free. And so when you're coming at it from a creative standpoint, and that's like the strategy that you want to employ, there's never a bad market. But like Whitney said, like, it's not always your time to buy. It's not always a good time to buy. It's not always, there's never a blanket statement for the market. And so you have to just really, really be in tune with what your goals are and what your investment thesis in general is, because it's real estate is not like 100% always the right move.
Yeah. And I think, a 7% mortgage rate is very intense sounding to everyone who knows that they were 3% a few years ago. But that shouldn't take you out of the running before, one, you understand your goals, your timelines, and your objectives, then do the financing considerations, because there are programs like the buy downs, etc. And then, yeah, if you are trying to be creative and you're in the right phase of life, like the house I'm selling is totally the house I would be buying if I didn't have a kid and I was comfortable having a roommate, share a driveway and a laundry room and nothing else, like not having to see them. That would be perfect for my mid 20s, but I'm in a different phase of life. So I really hope we find the right person to buy
That's
this
a good
house.
example, though, of the emotional side of things, because as was mentioned earlier, people are like, I'm going to be stuck in this house for the rest of my life. Probably not, because emotions are going to come into play here, and just life phases are. Right now, you're comfortable staying where you are, but as your life continues to evolve, eventually you're going to say, hey, maybe that 7% interest rate doesn't look as bad as I used to think. And I also have the funds to pay for the mortgage. So eventually people are going to move. Like, it's going to happen. It is not realistic for the entire country to stay in their houses forever. So there's that flip side of it too.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important to have confidence in this area of your life. Like, having a community around finances, knowing all aspects of it so that you can confidently make a decision that's right for you and not what the status quo is saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Or just knowing other creative options, because early on, when I started making income in my career, I thought the only option was wait till I had enough money to buy a house that was really pretty. I didn't know the term house hacking. I didn't understand that there were creative ways to partner up and purchase real estate. And now I've done both of those things. I've house hacked. This house we're selling is in partnership with someone where we put zero money in. So when we sell it, it's all upside other than the time that we've spent on it. And we have spent a lot of time on it. So, it's not just finances. There's so much more involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's also, to your point, it's about like your own values and feeling really confident about them. You could be in a 2.5% home right now and you have to commute an hour, or you have to like take your kid to school 45 minutes away. And there's like understanding the numbers and then the sort of like reality behind the numbers and what makes sense for you.
Totally.
All right. So should we move on to Barbie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because from Swifties to Beyonce's crowd to this,
Beehive.
there we go, the Beehive, to this wildly successful Barbie movie, women are taking over just really shaping this entertainment economy this summer, which is really cool. So between those three things I just mentioned, women are spending billions of dollars this year. And so the dominance in the entertainment industry, one executive in this entertainment space is saying it's from our desire to hear intelligent and inspiring female stories, which I definitely concur with. I love to see a woman thrive, and I think all of these women are doing amazing things. So before I open it up to what's happening with women's purchasing power, I just thought it'd be fun to talk about what Barbies we are. Steph and I went and saw the Barbie movie together, and everyone really got into it when we went. What were you, Steph? You were sports Barbie?
I was basketball Barbie.
Basketball Barbie. I was mom Barbie. I wore the only pink thing I had because I have red hair. Let's be honest, I don't have anything pink, and I was not cute, but it's fine. What Barbies are we just generally?
Well, you're money Barbie, right, Allegra?
I'm totally money Barbie. I'm literally the emoji with the tongue. If Barbie had a green tongue, that would be me. I'm the emoji money Barbie. And Steph, you are definitely bougie Barbie.
Yes, and maybe like luxury Barbie in my own way. But I did try to make myself austerity Barbie this year, and I failed.
It didn't work. We were joking that as she says that from her home podcast studio with like heavy velvet curtains.
We had to reschedule this pod for this, this day. And Allegra, I didn't tell you this is what I had to reschedule, but it was a 2-hour massage.
Stop.
No, girl.
We had to reschedule this, and Steph was the only one to turn it down. And I was like, Steph, can you just accept that? And she was like, can't you like go through my assistant to deal with my calendar? And I was like, what? Just this one time, but I didn't realize you were canceling a massage.
I wasn't going to tell you that, but
that sounds wonderful. 2 hours.
It's so funny though, Steph, because you're the most down to earth luxury Barbie I know.
Thank you. That's so nice.
You're down to earth, but you're very luxury Barbie. You don't have to be bougie Barbie. You can be luxury Barbie.
Luxury Barbie. Okay, and then Pam.
I am pool Barbie. I'm like 10. Like I'm like, my job is beach. My job is pool.
Your job was making the pool, and now your job is enjoying the pool.
Exactly.
Oh, you're my pool inspo.
Totally. Every time I'm in a public pool, I'm always like, I need a private pool. I want to be.
Time to text Pam.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yes. I was late to this recording, so I got named Travel Barbie, which I am perfectly okay with because that's my number one value.
Yeah, and it's fair. I don't think you've recorded a roundup from Austin this year. Where are you now?
I think I've recorded like one or two, but yeah,
not the roundups. We've recorded separate ones. I think you've been traveling.
I've lost track, but yeah, I'm out in California right now visiting family.
Where are you headed next?
Next off to Italy.
Yeah, you're travel Barbie for sure.
Yes, we are values-based Barbies.
We are values-based Barbies. Oh my God, I love that so much. We really are. Okay, so who wants to talk about these events in the economy and how women have so much control when it comes to our purchasing power?
Yeah, I think it is so interesting because regardless of the wage gap, of the investment gap that exists between genders, like our purchasing power as women is really strong. I saw like some statistic that women control or influence 85% of consumer spending. Like that is so much money that we really have control and influence on how it's spent. It's just bonkers. And it's so cool to see sort of the collective purchasing power that can happen from that. It's funny, I saw this, I saw someone say like, I love how what movie production companies are getting out of Barbie being a success is that we want more movies about toys because now they're going wild with creating toy movies rather than saying like, hey, movies geared towards women are actually so freaking successful. They are billion-dollar movies.
We're still having trouble giving women the credit, but you know what? Go girls, because this is like the summer of the woman.
Ugh, the movie industry, my fiance is big into movies, and so I'm really in the world because of him. And everything is so catered towards men. I mean, I just looked up the stat, 22% of directors in 2022 were women. That's it. And that's not because they're not trying. It's because they're not getting the funding, they're not getting the money. It's wild. And so hopefully this will make them realize that like women are here to buy. They're ready to go to the movies for quality and for women's stories. And it's just wild that they haven't realized that yet. It's just wild.
How many G.I. Joe movies do we have? How many superhero movies? How many Barbie movies? I mean, you can just add those up right there.
Yo, this article talks about Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, which I haven't gone to. Are you all Swifties? Are you going to her concerts?
I'm going to the European one next year in Vienna.
Oh, dang. Let's go, Pam.
Very excited. So I was part of this spend, but just not for this year.
Okay. Well, apparently hosting these concerts is giving such a boost to whatever city she hosts them in that they don't have all the numbers in yet, but like downtown Indianapolis, that's like their moneymaker for the year. The way that South by and ACL and Formula One are Austin's big event moneymakers. Literally, Wall Street Journal is calling her impact on cities Taylornomics, and Fortune magazine is calling it the T Swift lift, which I think Fortune had a better name. But it's just crazy because people don't just spend money on the concert, which goes back to her and, you know, the tour setup, but it also, they're getting dinner, they're staying in hotels, they're running Ubers. It's like a lot of money, not just to these individual women and their great ideas and their great talents, but like these women are creating so much value and overflow to the general economy. And I am so impressed by that.
Yeah. I love that we have examples of successful women in these events. I love that all of these, you know, women are spreading positive messages. I mean, I'm a big fan of rap music who just hit its 50th anniversary. Like, I'll be the first to admit I still love listening to hip hop, but like those messages toward women, they are not good. They are not positive. So I love that we're seeing the shift in power and messaging. You know, I love that even besides, you know, being in the entertainment industry and superstars, these are working women like Beyonce, T Swift, Margot Robbie, Greta Gerwig. Like, these are hard working women in their profession. So we're seeing good examples of that. I love that these events are experiential for entire families to go to. I think it helps maybe open up conversations between parents and kids about certain topics that might be uncomfortable to talk about during adolescence. So that's all really great. I think it's all generally very, very positive. I also love to look at the other side of things, right? Because nothing is completely good and nothing's completely bad. So I wanted to just bring up and ask what, you know, your thoughts are on the fact that, okay, yes, women have 80+% of the consumer power, and they are being super targeted right now. Like, there's a ton of merch, there's a ton of revenue that, you know, is being made off of these women around these events. So I get it. this is how the economy works. This is, people need to make a living. But what are all your thoughts on these events also promoting over consumerism, especially targeted towards women?
I have a lot of thoughts. It can come right back to the Kardashians. I've had so many conversations about the Kardashians, so that's amazing for them. They're just like top of mind in a lot. And I don't watch the show. I mean, I did. I'm not going to say I'm not a Kardashians fan. I used to watch the show. I have nothing against the Kardashians, the people. I think they're hard workers. I think they're smart. I think they're very business savvy. I also then, in what Whitney's kind of getting to, think that there is a line where it comes to how many products and brands and consumer items do you need to make for women who think that when they buy this, they're going to look like you, which that's on the consumer, right? Like, we need to understand just because you buy a certain thing doesn't turn you into something else. Like, yes, I know that there's dopamine hits when you buy something and there's a hope that this product will fix your hair, or this product will make your skin more luminescent, whatever. I think it's too much, and I really do think that there should be a correction at some point, and it has to start with the individual, really. I mean, I don't know how else to do it, unless the individual gets together and we collectively say no more. Like, how much more shit do we need? I always go back to one of the first things that I would talk about when I would explain the power of marketing to women versus men when it comes to our money. And I would just look at my now husband's inbox, and he literally had marketing messages that were from investment companies for him to invest his money and grow it for a future family he did not have. And my inbox was all consumer purchasing. Buy this Glossier eyebrow gel because you need it for this Instagrammable world. And those messages worked. Like, I still use Boy Brow, but that's not the point. It was like all that for me and something completely different message for him. And then we all live on Instagram. We know it's really impressive how the algorithm works. And there's one click to purchase items that you've been thinking of that suddenly show up right in your scroll. It's crazy, you know? But there has to be a recalibration at some point, because how much stuff do we need? Because, by the way, everything that you get, you're going to have to shed as you get older and you consolidate. It's like we just get more, and then we need less. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I have a lot of feelings on it, but I do think that some of the merch and the consumerism is just too much. It's just too much.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm a self-proclaimed anti-consumer, so I hate all the stuff. And you're right, like you buy it, you use it for a hot minute, and then it goes to landfill. So like, we're not helping out, Mother Earth either here, but it's so ingrained in our culture. And you're right, it has to start with the individual, but I'm even overwhelmed at how we can help promote anti-consumerism and get women away from thinking they need to buy all this merch.
It's hard. I have such mixed feelings about this, and I've actually talked a lot about this with my friends recently, because it's proven that women who look good make more money, mm-hmm. and that is where I'm like, oh my God. And I also like pretty things, and I like to look pretty, and like, it's like, where should we draw the line, and then how much influence will we actually have? And I don't know, but you're right. The Kardashians have a lot of influence and a huge platform, and they're peddling their makeup and their Skims and their all of it. Everything. And we are made to feel like we need it all. And so I think, we are starting somewhere and trying to have influence on really helping people find where their values are. And then values-based spending is so important. And like, if my value is, Whitney, your value is to travel. You're spending your money on travel, and that is inspiring. And that's what we need to like push into the world. Like, I love freedom and luxury, and I want a 2-hour massage, like stuff like that. I think that it's more of that, instead of buying like the Glossier Boy Brow just because we think we need it, and like explaining to people what we're spending money on and why.
Yeah. It's like, how do you get aligned with your values before you like click, like purchase on whatever that may be. So, maybe you're depositing some portion of your paycheck into a brokerage investment, paper assets, growing that. And then the same day you also buy $300 Taylor Swift ticket, so balance
Yes, as
both of.
long as it's both. And that's where I feel like it's really easy to not do the investing and thinking about future you when it's all so focused on the now and the consumerism and the marketing messages being so heavily. So I agree. I don't have real answers.
Yeah.
I think the
it's
best one we've
easier
come up with is the values-based spending. And I also think that that's not easy to get a first handle on. Like, it's one of the first things we do in the wall circle. And I think people are like, ew, this is squishy. Why are we journaling about our values? Like, this is not, I signed up for spreadsheets and like, tactical number stuff, but
that was me.
yeah.
Was me. I'm not that much of like a woo-woo journal. Like, I'm like, wow, okay, I'm going to sit down and determine my values. And it's crazy as being more of a numbers analytical person. The values thing has run true through every area of my life, like not just finances. So it is crazy practice. And when people feel out of control, I think the only thing you can do mentally to get back in control is say, hold on a minute, let's go back and revisit what matters most to me and cut out everything else.
Totally.
Yes. Okay. One thing, I mean, this is kind of like way zoomed out, but I think that it comes down to, like you said, journaling and like really writing these things. What do you want? Like, what do you actually want? And you all are such inspirations to me in this world, and we all do this, but 14% of people have goals. Like only 14% of people have goals. And those people are 10 times more successful than those without goals.
Yeah.
And then there's 3% of those people with goals, 3% of them write their goals down. And those people are 3 times more successful than the people who don't write them down.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like niching down into like, okay, we have to figure out what we actually ultimately want and then go from there to figure out where we want to spend our money in this world, because that's our power, is our money.
Preach.
Yeah.
That's another big part of the wealth circle, because you can't have a successful financial life unless you know what you're working towards. And you can't just conceptually know what you're working towards, because yes, we are all conceptually working towards a retirement phase of our life or a family phase of our life. But there's numbers to how you want that family and what you want to be able to provide them. And same for what you want your life to look like in the future. So basically, all of your goals are financial goals. And one of the first things we ask people are, how many of you have your goals outlined and written down? Again, not in your head, not just like thought about, but like physically manifested onto a piece of paper. That is so critical and something so easy to skip. But if you skip that, then it's not really a concrete goal, because your thoughts can change tomorrow and you don't even remember what your first iteration was. So that's a big, also squishy thing we do, but I think it's huge. Like, understanding your values, understanding your goals are literally the most essential piece to then creating an investment plan and being able to shift when the market shifts or when your goals change. Like we talked about with the mortgages, right? Like maybe you had one plan and then you can reevaluate and be different because you still know your overall goals, and maybe just the timeline or the way to get to them is going to be changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
One extra layer I'll bring up, since we're talking about all these family events, I think it may be a little easier to be self-disciplined around your personal values when it's only you involved. But what about when there's kids involved, right? I know some parents have a hard time saying no. I don't have kids, but I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I can tell you, I say no to myself a lot more than saying no to them. They want this, they want that. I'm like, oh, okay. Like I give in a lot more. So it also might, be a family practice to sit down and discuss your values and what's expected.
I love that. I'd never thought about that.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be good at saying no, but TBD. Keep me humble, y'all.
I can say grandparents are the worst. They never say no. And then you're in trouble when it's your kids because you have to
Yes.
counteract that.
All right.
Last thing I'll say about these powerhouse women who I'm so proud of. But it's just the irony, like they're holding up the economy, they're boosting inflation at a time when we don't need inflation to be boosted. So it's just the irony, right? Like that all this success and female power and awesomeness is coming at maybe the time we don't need it in the economy.
Yes, we need the economy to do worse so that we can get these interest rates down.
Slow it down, women. Slow it down. I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
It is so, it's so interesting though when you look at the, you know, the impending recession, quote unquote, that people have been predicting, and in fact the GDP, it doesn't show that we're in a recession. The jobs reports, it's wild, like how well everyone is actually doing, and it's so weird to root for, you know, more unemployment or higher unemployment, but that's why we're in the situation we're in, because, and real estate specifically, but for in all areas, it's because their economy is just like really doing well.
Yeah. It always feels like what you're experiencing in real life never matches, at least for me, what I am hearing in the reports of what's happening in the overall economy. Because, you know, back when we were in the pandemic and everyone was really scared, the stock market was booming, the real estate market was booming. You know, you wouldn't expect that. So anyways, let's get into what's in our wallets right now. Whitney, what are you up to financially?
So since the last month, you know, all my money discussions have not been around saving, investing, any of that. They've actually been around spending, going back to values. So we have 4 weddings coming up this fall, and they all require significant travel at a decently high price tag. And so, you know, my partner and I really had to sit down and determine what we want to do. And ultimately, we decided that we are going to fully take advantage of all 4 of these trips. You know, we're not going to skip, you know, say, oh, we'll come home early. We'll only go for a few nights. We won't stay where everyone else is staying. We're just saying, no, we are going to do it. We have the funds. Relationships and travel are our number one values. We're in the prime of our lives. We don't want to cut ourselves short. We don't want to waste it. As we look to the future, when we're retired fully in our 60s, 70s, we're not going to have the energy to do all these trips. Our bodies are not going to be able to move around as much. So we just said we're going for it. We're spending the money this fall to go to these weddings, to travel, and we're gonna be okay with it. Like, cause in the past I've had a lot of guilt spending money, too much money, even on something that's my number one value, and I'm really working to let it go and to really, like, life is important. So that's kind of what's happening in my wallet.
Whitney, I'm excited for you.
Amazing.
I was like, you're really travel Barbie. And I love how this is so aligned with your values. And then, like we were joking, you're also single-handedly causing inflation with
spending.
Whitney's been around the world twice, and now she's going on her wedding world tour.
I love it.
In the last 2 years. But no, I've watched you really transition from being hardcore about accumulation and not wanting to spend any of that money to giving yourself some slack so that you can actually enjoy it while you're young and you're in this phase. So I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
So cool.
Pam, what are you up to?
Well, so last roundup, I mentioned to you all that I was trying to get my PMI removed on my house. So sort of just quick numbers. I bought my home for $530,000 in December of 2020. My mortgage payment was around $2,900, and I was paying about $100 a month in PMI. being pool Barbie and also single-handedly causing inflation by, adding more construction. With the install of the pool, I knew that our house value had gone up. And so the numbers came back and I got PMI removed. So wanted to share some additional numbers. So the new appraisal was $725,000. So bought it for $530,000. It's now $725,000. We put in about $165,000 with pool, landscaping, new roof, things like that. And we were able to get our PMI removed. So that's an extra $100 that we are saving a month. And I decided to get a house cleaner with that extra $100, which I'm very excited about.
Oh my God.
You know?
Amazing.
Just for listeners who might not know the acronym, PMI stands for Primary Mortgage Insurance. And it's something that came about after the great financial crisis, where if you're not putting 20% down on a house, you are paying this automatic insurance. But a lot of times you can get it removed if you've made improvements to the house. And it's something that we're watching many women do in the Factora community. There's great threads and conversations about it, because why wouldn't you want to save money if you can? This is why I want women to be empowered about what they can do creatively and financially in all areas of their life to reduce their expenses and repurpose that money towards their values. So clean home.
Clean home. Very quick and not consequential, but it's private mortgage insurance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Private mortgage insurance. Thank you.
Yes. Love it. That's so exciting, Pam. Having a house cleaner is the best thing ever.
What are you doing, Steph?
I am actually, all this talk about real estate, it has been extremely slow. We've set all of our goals based on last year, and it is not the same. And so it's been an interesting testing living on my salary only, because Alan is 100% commission and my fiance is 100% commission. And so it's been an interesting shift to I was joking about austerity, but really our multiple streams of income have come in clutch. We have our rental properties that are bringing us money. And so we know we can do it, which is very empowering. We are finishing up 2 projects, one for my open house business and one for my family business. They should be done by the end of August. And then I have stopped contributing to my taxable brokerage and shifted my focus to paying off our HELOC. So we got a HELOC to buy the house we're currently in. And I've set a goal of paying off that HELOC by 50 to 100% by the end of the year. So whether that means selling a property, just doubling down our efforts on paying that back, but it is variable interest rate, and interest rate climate is high. So that's where I am.
I love it.
Awesome.
I don't have big news in this department. I guess the only thing I could think of was that we went from having a private nanny to doing a nanny share, which definitely was more affordable, but also great because little baby gets out of the house and gets socialized. So it's been a win-win in all regards. And then probably if anyone is watching this on YouTube, you'll notice that my office looks different because I've decided to move around my house and make my office into also a den for our family so that our living room can be more for socializing with friends, because it kind of turned into a playroom for our child, which I promised myself would never be the case, and happened within a year. So her toys will be here now, and TV watching as well. And so, yeah, we're just trying to make our house more multi-purpose for our needs because we spend a lot of time at home with a young family. All right, y'all. Well, this was a fun roundup as always, and I appreciate you sharing your numbers, your news, your sentiments about the economy and women's wealth at large. I know we're all really big proponents of seeing women flourish and flourish financially for sure. So
Absolutely.
See y'all in September. If you enjoyed this episode, come join us in a Well Circle. It's our live, online, 12-week course and community where we teach you how to create a personalized financial plan alongside hundreds of other women building wealth. It will change your life and your money for good. You can apply at factorawealth.com. factorawealth.com/wealth circle. That's factorawealth.com/wealth circle. See you in the next episode.